Welcome to the Inspiring Victory Show, where we help you double your business, double your impact, and change the world. And I have the perfect person for you today to help you do all of that. Pat Mussieux, she is from France, and Pat lives up in Canada in one of the most beautiful areas ever, Edmonton. If you've ever been there, you know it's gorgeous. And she helps people all over the world and in some really remarkable ways to be able to be more successful in their business and their personal lives, and to make their teams just run like a Swiss Army knife, just like unbelievably productive. So we're going to talk to you a little bit today about some of those things. And she's done some amazing things. She's got several Stevie Awards. Anybody Canadian will probably know that, and even if you're from other parts of the world. And she even has a foundation to help do some mentoring in Zimbabwe and Africa. So interesting world traveler, and somebody who can really help you reach your highest levels of potential and help your team do that as well. So thank you for being on the show, Pat. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you. My absolute pleasure. Because
Nice
I
to
really
see you.
believe, together we're stronger. Collaboration is key. And, together you and I getting the message out to help people. That's what I'm all about.
It absolutely is. Yes, as John F. Kennedy once famously said, a rising tide raises all the boats. And it's so
Exactly.
true. We want to share that knowledge and wisdom that is so hard won. And in the words of one of my favorite speaker buddies, Bonnie Dean, you don't have time to make all the mistakes yourself. So learn from the mistakes.
Yeah.
Learn from the mistakes of others. You don't have
Good
time to
one.
make them all yourself, for sure. All right. So yeah, how did you get into the whole speaking? I know you've written multiple books, I believe. Consulting world. How did that come about?
It was a long time ago because I've been around a while, but it
Get
really all
it?
started when I was engaged to be married, and that was a long time ago. And
Okay.
I, of course, like any other bride to be, wanted to look my best, so I joined Weight Watchers. And
As
when I
as
joined
everyone
Weight
did.
Watchers,
Yeah.
yeah, and at the time I was working in human resources and training and development.
Oh,
So,
huh.
I mean, it just evolved in that the franchise owners approached me and asked me if I would
Mm.
consider working part-time for them, being a group leader. Then that moved into recruiting, coaching. In fact, my coaching
They have great
certification,
training.
it came from Weight Watchers International in New York, way back
They had
in
great training back in the day, didn't
yeah,
they? Yeah, they had great training.
1988. Yep.
Oh, wow. Well,
That's where
back.
it all started.
Yeah, amazing. You were only like 6 years old at the time. Yeah, I get it.
A
Yeah,
little
sure.
older,
A little
yeah.
older than that. Yeah, I know. Me too. Oh, that's exciting. All right, so that's kind of moved you into the training and development, and you were already in the HR world, so you know that's why you know so much
Yeah,
about building up people. And I think you are all about building up people in
yeah.
every
Hmm.
possible way. And I feel that very strongly about that myself. What is the number one secret that you would say to building up other people, whether if you have a big team or if you've got one employee? What is the number one thing that you would say makes the biggest difference to being able to build up another person?
From all the work I've done over the decades, and I've worked in private sector, public sector, nonprofit sector, you name it. I've worked with CEOs and executives all around the world. And there's a common thread. And the bottom line is it is lonely at the top. It is lonely
Yeah.
at the top. And so I would say the secret sauce, if you will, is to
Mhm.
have a coach. And I know in the corporate world
True.
now, that's much more common than it was way back when I started and when I
Yeah.
was in the corporate world. But now it is to have a coach, to have a safe place to land, to have accountability, to be able to brainstorm, to also take the blinders off and to
Mhm.
see and learn, what am I missing? And so that
Mhm.
is my number one piece of advice. And
Mhm.
again, secret sauce to anybody who asks me.
I think that's brilliant. I think it's hard to build up other people if you aren't working on building up yourself. And we have a
Hmm.
tendency to think, well, I just need to fix everybody around me and everything will be fine. And then what I find over and over again is I'm usually the problem. Or when we go into companies that
Hmm.
we work with, larger companies where we've got, looking at the top level, they are usually the problem in the nicest possible way, and usually in a very well-meaning way.
Hmm.
But I would always say to people, sometimes people will say, well, I can't believe I need a coach. I mean, I coach other people, or I coach my whole ginormous, 10,000 person team or whatever. And it's, yeah, that's true, but brain surgeons aren't allowed to do their own brain surgery.
That and
you're way too close to it. I mean, I've had marketing coaches, I've had sales coaches, I've had people come in and coach my team on things that we coach other people to consult and do consulting for other people to do because I know I'm too close to it. So I think
exactly.
if you think you can do everything yourself, you're missing that 360-degree view. They aren't necessarily smarter than you are, but they do see the back of your head and you don't.
And
I'm wise enough to start seeing that the older I get.
when we get stuck in that space, our people are missing out. They're not
True.
getting the best of us as a
Mhm.
leader. And so that's really the bigger picture is what and how can I do something to be a better me and therefore build a better team, therefore be a better leader, therefore have a bigger impact, therefore make more money and make a
Right,
difference.
the whole company flourishes. Yeah.
Yes.
You then, yeah. And I also find that the things that I learned from all the coaches and consultants I've had, which I think is I've had 11 of them now in every possible angle. Those things that you learn do trickle down to the
Yes.
people around you because you find yourself saying the things that they say and sharing the wisdom that has come to you. And also I think have coaches for your people too. I mean, get yourself a coach and then get a coach for everybody else. And they
Mhm.
can sometimes, if somebody's working with you and your team, they can also give you valuable feedback about, hey, Irmgard isn't so thrilled about the fact that you throw everything at her at the last possible second.
Mhm.
And you don't want to do that anymore. So yeah, I mean, you get that valuable feedback. And I think what a lot of people miss about coaching is they show you your strengths.
Absolutely. And help you
Yeah.
celebrate. And that's a piece that most
Oh,
people
that's really
don't
important.
do. Totally,
No,
at every step
no,
of the
it's super
way.
important. Hmm.
And when I go into organizations now and work with leadership,
Hmm.
part of my stipulation is then I want a 6-month commitment to work with your people. So then
Oh,
everybody has a
good.
common vision, common language, and
Mhm.
common language is so important because you and I
Mhm.
both know from our experience when you're in a corporate world and you're sent out to learn
Uh,
something, to be exposed to something, or experience something, and you come
right.
back, you're
You're the
the
only
only.
one. You're the only one. Yeah,
Exactly,
you're the only. It's
exactly. So
so
the power
true.
and the strength is
Hmm.
bring it
Hmm.
in-house. Bring it
Hmm.
in-house and offer
Hmm.
that support over the long term. It's not a one-night
Yeah.
wonder.
No, I mean, having a speaker in, I've spoken to, as 3,000 groups and 3.5 million participants at this point. So speakers are great, don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's a great catalyst, but you can't make long-term
that's
sweeping
right.
changes from somebody coming in for an hour or even for a day.
Exactly. I won't even do
So,
that
yeah.
anymore because it's a
No.
disservice.
Well, and I think both are so valuable. I mean, I think it's still a wonderful thing. I mean,
Time and
speakers
place.
are still valuable. You're giving people a common language, you're giving people a common experience,
Mm,
and sometimes it can trigger a whole lifetime of growth, which is fantastic. However, I think people are more and more realizing have the speaker come in and then have them work with you and with your team because that's going to get
yeah.
you that long-lasting
Well, it gets you the
growth
ROI, right? Gets
that
you
you're
the
looking for.
ROI.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think for every dollar you spend on training and development, something like $6.12, American or Canadian, I'm sure, but that you get back. So I mean, it's just the most wonderful investment possible.
Yeah.
And like you said, we work with people over a year or at least six months because I don't think you can have rapid change in any less than that.
People don't like change.
Well,
They don't
there's a
like
whole change
change.
management process of how do you get people, and it's so funny because people will say, well, I know I need to do that, and like, okay, well, how come you haven't done it so far? And it's like, well, because they're off on their own. And I would say, well, it's the same thing with me. I know how to work out.
Mhm.
Why do I have a coach help me work out? Because I'm not necessarily going to. And you can understand maybe how a ballerina, dances across the stage. That doesn't mean you can physically do it. So there's a big difference. And I think that's where role playing comes in so well, is if you can really get people practicing for real, not just thinking about it in their head, what they would do, what they might do, they might say, but actually get them physically involved in doing it. That has a huge impact. And then when they go out, especially salespeople, when they
Oh,
go out into
yeah.
the world,
My
that makes a
favorite people.
mine too. I love salespeople. They're so optimistic and lovely. So yeah, I think it takes time to be able to not just comprehend something, which might be what that initial speech does. Now they
Mm,
comprehend it. They know they need to focus on whatever that is. But then it might take 6 months or a year or a dozen ride-alongs with every salesperson to be able to get them to actually be able to do it and do it consistently and do it well. And for everybody to be doing it the same, because that's what you're talking about is, like you said, the one person goes off and gets sales training, comes back, and then they're the only one. They're going to slip back into whatever the pack.
Of course,
the
because
pack is
the
doing.
environment
It's natural.
is stronger
Yeah.
than the person. That's why.
Isn't that what Jim
If-
Rohn used to say? Jim Rohn used to
Hmm.
say, beware the power of influence. You will become like the people around you. And to think you're stronger than the power of influence is very foolhardy.
Yeah,
That
Lou
point of
Tice
view.
was my
Yeah.
mentor who taught that the environment is
Mm.
stronger than the individual. And
Same
so
concept, same
it's
idea. Yeah,
it
absolutely.
is to go in
Yeah.
and do a 1 hour, a lunch and learn, whatever the case might be. I
Yeah.
focus for me and
Or a
many of my
webinar.
colleagues, you focus
Yeah.
on the what, the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the long-term
Inspire people to
relationship,
learn more. Inspire people to
Yeah.
learn more, which is great.
and build a know, like, and trust factor.
Also true. Oh,
And then
yeah.
over the long term, give people the tools and the techniques on the how, and then match that to their goals and their responsibilities, and then you too can measure your ROI. So it's a success formula, if you will.
Definitely, definitely. I love that. I love that. Tell me about one of your favorite clients and what they were able to accomplish that you were really proud of.
Mhm. Wow. Well, this is going to be a little different maybe than what you expect, but my favorite
Mhm.
clients have been the women at the market in Zimbabwe, in Victoria Falls, who, when we were there, when we made the commitment, we went in and we said, we're not here for a one-time shot, and we're not here to throw money at you. We are here to link arms, support you, teach you, coach you, and so on. And that's why it's been over a period of 10 years. Why I describe them to be first the ideal client and secondly the biggest success factor is because they were hungry and they were coachable.
Yeah.
And they were committed. And there were many, they walked for an hour or two to get to the church ground. We weren't allowed in the church. We were training outside in the churchyard. They walked for 1, 2, 3 hours. They borrowed clothes to come. They were so committed to learn what it took, because the women there, they really were the source of the family's livelihood. And so they would leave, for them to leave their stall in the market for one day, they lost money. And yet they were so committed, and they knew we were coming back, and we were coming back, and we were coming back. And so to work with people who are hungry, coachable, leaning in, committed, taking action, that is the most rewarding work. And I would do anything for those women, and their success has been phenomenal.
Oh,
Phenomenal.
Tell me about that. What have you?
Well, first of all, you go into a little shack in the market in Victoria Falls, and you've got like 30 women lined up in little stalls, and they're all selling the same thing. So how do you differentiate? So we went in and we taught them detailing. We taught them, I can't remember the proper language. Kathy Wagner could tell you that in retail.
Okay, retail.
In display, right? We taught them how to display. We taught them how to speak a language. We taught them how to have a conversation with a prospect that differentiated them from the other 29 women. And we taught them how to upsell, and we taught them how to get referrals and ask their friends to come to the market. And so to see all of that in action over the years and the sense of pride, the market, their shack, you wouldn't even go in there. You would think it was like a storage shed. They took such pride that they bought paint and they painted the outside and they brightened up the environment. I mean, just so many factors that were involved in the success of that project. That is what I would want for the corporate world here, for people to be that hungry, that coachable, that eager, and the collaboration. Again, I fully believe in collaboration, that they were all there to help each other.
How lovely.
Yeah.
How lovely.
That's amazing.
Amazing. What's your favorite upsell technique that you may have shared with them or with others in your speeches and trainings and coaching?
Well, it's always about, what's the dream for your business? And that resonates with women in particular. What's the dream for your business? What's the vision? And once you're able to create that and create it so strong and compelling, they're wearing it on their sleeve, and then helping people create, one thing I've learned over the last 30 years, people don't know how to set goals. They do not know how to set goals. They're very wishy-washy. I'm going to
No,
drink more
yeah,
water. I'm going to make more sales
yeah.
calls. It's like, what? What is
More,
that?
what's more? Yeah, I had people that come up.
Exactly.
I remember when I started, I mean, I was trained by Jim Rohn, as you probably know, who
Mhm.
was the king of, set goals, set goals, set goals. And he made us all write down, 100 things that we wanted to accomplish. And I did
Mhm.
150 because I really wanted to impress him. And I'm always got to be an A student. And, it's weird. I looked at the list of goals that I had in my 20, or was it my 20s? Um, and just the other day I had it listed, my handwriting was better back then, but it was actually legible. And I looked at all of these things and I realized all but one had been achieved. And once
Mhm.
we started working in Europe, one of the things was work in Europe. That was the last one. But it was 149 and we just hit 150. And it wasn't even like I was trying on some of those things. I mean, some of them was very active and very strategic and
Yeah.
30 years of working really, really hard. And other things were just because you write them down, there's some sort of weird contract with yourself and your universe. Yeah, the power of writing down your goals. And
Every
people do not
morning,
realize, yeah,
every
how powerful
morning
that is.
I sit and write these out. And
Good for
yes,
you.
that
Yeah.
is part of the
There's
success
something
technique.
physical, mental, yeah, physical, mental,
Absolutely.
spiritual. And I don't know if I really believed it at the time, aside
Hmm.
from wanting Jim Rohn to think I was cool. But darn it, he was right. He was
Yes.
absolutely right. And half of them don't happen in the way you think they're going to happen. Because I
No.
remember thinking to my young self, oh, well, this will happen like this and that'll happen like, and it doesn't happen anything like you think it will, but it does happen. And sometimes years and
Mhm.
years, 10, 20, 30 years later, but it does. But if back then they were talking about the power of writing down your goals, that contract with yourself, your soul, your universal power, God, the trees, whatever one believes. And it's so funny that hardly any, still, I think 2% of the population takes the time to write down their goals.
That's
To
right.
this day, it has not
Mhm.
improved much, sadly, since then. Well, I think that's the beauty of what you do is I think most business owners in particular don't really have time or don't create the space or the time, don't think they have the time. They don't think they have the time to do that. And so what's nice is, you know, having a coach forces you to do things you really want to do and that are important, but not necessarily urgent. But it is so powerful and so important. I am so incredibly honored to have you as a part of the Inspiring Victory tribe at the Inspiring Victory Show. Please do us a favor. We really need your help. Please like, subscribe, share, write a comment. It makes a huge difference with how many people we can reach here at the Inspiring Victory Show, and it makes a big difference to me personally. I want to make sure that we're providing content to as many people as we possibly can so they can grow and succeed. So we'd love to have you continue your membership here at the Inspiring Victory Show. It's free. Helping us out costs nothing, but it makes a huge difference in how many people we can help. So double your business, double your impact, and change the world. And thank you so much for being a part of this extraordinary community. Thank you. What is something that you tell people to do in their planning when you have them? I saw you writing those beautiful things. You have actually lovely handwriting. So I saw you write those every day.
Mhm.
What's something you tell people to incorporate into their business planning or even their personal life planning? What's something you recommend?
Well, I'm very much like the brilliant Simon Sinek. I'm always starting with the why. The why.
Yeah,
Many people
yeah,
have
that's
either
important.
not identified it and or have lost track of it, particularly in the corporate
Oh,
world. I mean, and in
yeah,
the
yeah,
entrepreneurial world as well.
yeah, sure.
And
See,
with my team and with my clients, before every conversation, we start with, and what's your why? And what's your why?
mm,
And be grounded in the
mm,
why, because as time goes by, you know, people are going to disappoint you. People are going to lie to you. People aren't going to pay you. People won't show up. So to
mhm,
get up every day with enthusiasm and energy and commitment, you
mhm.
really want to be grounded in your why. And
You
so
do.
that's at the
It
core.
has
That's
to
at
have
the
meaning. It
eh,
has to have meaning to you. It really
absolutely.
has to have
And
meaning to you. Yeah.
emotion. There needs
Because
to
there'll be
be
great times and there'll
emotion.
be, this goes on for decades and decades.
Yeah,
There'll be great times and then there'll be terrible times. We all lived through
guaranteed.
COVID or 2008 in the
Guaranteed.
US or 2001 wasn't so hot either,
That's
so
right.
If you've been in business
That's
any
right.
length of time, there'll be problems and there'll be crises. And yeah, you better
Mhm.
get up in the morning with some part of your soul feeling as though this is what you're really, really meant to do and be able to identify that especially on the tough
And we
days.
don't just write
Sure.
that down once a year in a planning session. We
Probably
don't.
not.
And
Yeah,
again, it comes
yeah,
back
you
to
have to
the
live it.
coaching. Well, and I've got
Yeah.
mine right here in front of me. It's right in front of me. And so
Oh,
before I
tell
do
me,
anything,
do you want to share what you have on a part of what you have on yours so
oh,
we can give
yeah,
that to the
mine
show?
is easy. It's easy. Listen, I'm 73 and I'm still going strong with 3 businesses. So
I didn't
my
know you were
why,
73.
yeah,
Girl, you look
my
good.
why
Yeah,
is to remain in
that's great.
optimal
Lots of
health.
experience. Yes.
Optimal health, because without health, we've
Hmm.
got nothing.
You have nothing. No.
Go back to Steve
Mm-mm.
Jobs in one of his last interviews, right? Yeah, he was so
No.
young relative to me. So mine is to
Yeah.
remain in optimal health and
Yes.
to do travel frequently and often to the best places with my new life partner, Rod. That's it. That's my why.
Mm. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
It doesn't have to be complicated, but it's
No, it
emotional
doesn't.
and it's
No.
doable and it gets me
Hmm.
going every day.
When I first started, I remember Jim Rohn, he didn't call it your why, because I don't think Simon Sinek
Yeah.
wasn't exactly around
Yeah.
yet. But
Yeah.
he said you have to have some reason that you do this because he
Yeah.
goes, there'll be days where you're stuck in the, Toronto airport. I have been many times
Yeah.
for 18 hours sleeping on a bench or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, there are days when it gets tough
It's
and
hard.
it gets hard.
It's
And he said, what is it that you really feel that you are meant to do? And I said, I really believe I'm meant to help millions of people grow and succeed. And he said,
Mhm.
you will. You will. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, it's a long way to go. I'd spoken to like 12 people at the time,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden, as it grows and grows and grows, suddenly you've spoken to, half a million
Mhm.
and a million and a
Well, and
million
your
and
why can
3 million.
change, right?
Yeah.
Your why
Yeah.
and your purpose can
That
change over
yeah,
time.
whether that's I need to be as healthy as possible with the people that I
Yeah.
love, doing, helping other people in the way that you do,
Mhm.
or continuing to help millions of people grow. And that has expanded. Now I have all these people that work with us, and we have this amazing team now. And, to get to see them grow and them succeed
Mhm.
and, creating entrepreneurial projects within
Yeah.
our company that I never could have dreamed of. And then watching and nurturing that. I mean, that's a part of that, helping other people, lifting other people up that I never ever could have imagined. So I think sometimes if you think back to your childhood or you think back to something you read or, I don't think it has to be super dramatic or
Nope.
super huge. I've seen people who said, you have said, I just want to make sure that, that I'm making a difference to the people and, in my very small community.
Yep.
Wonderful. So
Well, and take it back.
we all have a way to make a difference, I think.
Take it
Yeah.
back to being stranded in the airport, for example. And
How
what
many times, right?
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
no kidding. And
Right,
what we're
both of us.
talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there and recognizing and knowing that you're going to face another business day and another business day. And it comes
Yeah.
back to the value of having a
Hmm.
coach. Because in those
Yeah.
moments where you could
So
start
important.
to go down that black hole and the black spiral and thinking, what's the
Yeah.
point? When you have a
Yeah,
coach,
yeah,
you've got
yeah.
somebody by your side, somebody who believes in you, somebody who's going to reach out and lift you up. I mean, to
Hmm.
me, that's gold. I have 3 coaches.
It is.
That's gold.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
you have this chance to have people hold the space for you to be
yeah.
everything you're capable of being, or
Hmm.
and for your team to become, if you have a larger team, for your team to become
Yeah.
everything that they're capable of being. We've started adding there's a fund where anybody on our team that wants to hire any kind of coach or wants to take any kind of, online courses or any kind of stuff, they have an amount every year that every 6 months we renew it and
Brilliant.
as much as they want. Because I learned early on, that's why I'm still alive and successful as a business.
Hmm.
Whereas a lot of our competitors over
Hmm.
almost 30 years now, are who didn't do that and didn't invest in themselves and don't invest in their people are long gone, because a lot of it's about adapting to every new thing that happens. You were talking about your friend who coaches people in retail.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And how she said, she had to come in after COVID and tell everybody, here's how you deal with building your retail business
Yep.
back up when everybody's, used to being in their pajamas at home all the time. So, things just do change, and, the ability to adapt and having creative minds outside of you who can help you adapt and also see, again, those strengths.
Yep.
I think every plus is a minus, every minus is a plus. It's all how you're applying it. And you are sometimes, I know for myself, I'm just sometimes way too close to it. How do you find a great coach? How do you choose a great coach? What do you look for in somebody who's going to be a great coach for you or for your company?
Well, my first piece around that is I base a lot of what I do, whether it's clients or coaches, friends,
Okay,
on
sure, same
referrals,
thing.
on referrals.
Referrals. So ask
So
people you
I
know,
ask,
who, do you have a coach? Do
absolutely.
you like them? What are they
Here's what
like?
I'm looking
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
Listen, I did a keynote and I was talking about how marketing and the dating game are so similar. And
It's
it's the
true,
same, yeah, it's the
true.
same
Yeah, I
thing with
tend to
finding
get
a
that. Yeah.
coach. So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want? How clear are
Mm-hmm.
you? Do you have the
Mm-hmm.
vision? I have my vision board over here.
I
And
see.
yeah,
Fabulous.
and based on the vision, what specifically you're looking for, geographically, physically, financially, emotionally. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go talk to people and I do my
Mm-hmm.
homework. And that's how I landed with some phenomenal coaches
Yeah,
over
me
the
too.
years.
Me
And
too.
so it's again for clients as well. We have from all the masterminds I've been in, we have a tight network of a few from each one who have stuck together. And
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
coaching industry in North America, there's a lot of what we call coach jumpers. There's entrepreneurs who are
Mm-hmm.
hopping around, not paying their bills or doing whatever. So we share
Oh,
that information, and we
interesting.
also share that,
Mm-hmm.
this is the year I'm going to up level, and this is the ideal coach I have found, and you
Mm-hmm.
might want
Mm-hmm.
to an introduction there. So
Yeah.
referral is the name of my game.
I agree entirely. Yeah. I've also found lately watching podcasts and seeing who's on there. Sometimes you can pick up information. We needed somebody who could do international tax law for one of our clients. And,
Yeah,
oddly, really odd, very, very weird, specific way that
yeah.
like we couldn't find a single person. And so I was like, there's got to be somebody. And so we searched YouTube
Mhm.
and found somebody who was on a podcast talking about exactly that. She turned out to be fantastic. We all love her and have introduced her to the client in question, and now we'll be introducing to more people. So yeah, so sometimes these people are out there, and if it's somebody that you follow and you respect their
Mhm.
podcast and you respect them, it's the same sort
Yeah.
of thing. Because sometimes people will say, "I don't have a network. I don't know anybody." Well, yeah, you can do the same thing that we do. You can have our network. I mean, you can watch all the dozens of people who've been on the Inspiring Victory show. You could also call up Pat, and Pat will tell you everything you've ever wanted to know since you were two. But you can still do the same thing. Who are other people recommending?
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes when people are starting out or when they are kind of
Yeah.
lonely at the top, like you said, they just don't know where to start. But
That's
I
right.
think if they're
And I
looking for
have my
something specific,
Rolodex.
you do, yeah, yeah, me too. I always say, yeah, either we do it internally or we know we'll find you a Pat that
Yes.
can fix it for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or somebody that we know. And when you're business long enough, you can probably refer, like if you're like me, I know you are, we can refer people to anybody on anything,
Pretty much.
usually within our own database. It's pretty rare nowadays that we don't have
Yeah.
one, two, or three people. Somebody asked me if we had somebody who could do fractional HR, and they needed to
Mm.
be able to do stuff internationally, and they also needed to be able to speak multiple languages. And I was like, oh, I have three. I literally have three different organizations that
Hmm.
are all fantastic that could do all of those things. And you don't realize that you're collecting these geniuses. As I
Yeah.
collected you in my genius group
Mm.
tribe, right? You don't realize you're collecting them, but if you actively start looking for it in terms of when you're networking, can you be looking for other people that you think are brilliant?
That's
They
right.
probably have other brilliant friends. They'll know other brilliant coaches, and they
Who do
can
you
introduce
know?
you to
Who do you
great people.
know?
Who do you know? Who do you know?
Who
And
do you
it's
know?
sometimes that, people think, I don't want to be referred to somebody, and somebody that said, I said, I think I have a referral for you that, they'd be a great power partner for you. And they're
Mhm.
like, well, I don't think they could hire me. And I was like, well, first of all, they didn't know this person could hire them 10 times over, but we won't go there. And I had to sort of step back, and I was like, this is a person who is so heavily in your market and has so many contacts there, they could give you a lifetime of referrals. But you're so busy worrying about whether this particular person, can give you business tomorrow. So you can't be short-sighted about it either. You have to collect
It's a
amazing
long game.
people. It is collect amazing people. They will find you clients in
Yeah.
the long run. And if you keep on supporting them. Interesting. Oh, that's wonderful. All right. Well, what's your favorite advice for the lonely at the top leader types? Because it is lonely. You are absolutely right about
Mhm.
that. You've got people, they can't exactly turn to their team and say, gee, I'm worried we're not going to have a good quarter next
Yeah, I'm
quarter.
having a bad
Or,
day.
let me tell my spouse, gee, I'm wondering if the company's going to implode and we won't have any money anymore. I mean,
Mhm.
you just, you can't. So what is your best advice aside from obviously get yourself a great coach, call Pat, we're all going to be there to support you. What would be your best advice for those leaders? What do they do? What's something else they can do?
Well, there's just a few simple things, and one is certainly get out of your bubble. I was coaching a client group yesterday, and they said, "How many of you have committed to going to events this year?" Again, with on the theme of continued personal and professional development. And then I said to them, "How many of you just keep going to the same events within your industry? Get out of your bubble."
Right.
So, for example, when I lived in the Toronto area and being in the coaching and speaking industry, I went to a Starbucks conference because a franchise conference. I wanted to get out of my bubble and I wanted to hear from different people. I wanted to take my blinders off. I wanted to create more people in my network. So those
Yeah.
kinds of things is what I advise CEOs and leaders. Get out of your bubble, add some new and different energy and professional types to your network. Yes, get a coach. If
Yeah.
not two or three.
Well, then they'll hold you accountable for the goal and your team accountable for the goals that
And
you set too.
I also tell them you've got to look in the mirror because if it's to be, it's up to me. And change starts with me. And many CEOs have become very stagnant. This is what we've done in the past. This is how we've always done it.
We've always done it. Yeah.
So look
You're
in
right.
the mirror and do a self-assessment and really be brutally honest with yourself. And I guided a team last week on that. Be brutally honest with yourself as to where and how and what you want to improve, and then go find the source for that.
And find a way to do it.
And,
Absolutely.
and it comes back to what I said at the beginning before we were recording. I see a lot of CEOs who have lost the fun gene. They're not having fun anymore. They really have given everything to the business. And I don't know in the corporate world if that is attractive anymore. We want CEOs who are human, who are relatable, who are fun, and who really want it. They know their why, and everybody wants to get up in the morning and come and work together.
That's so attractive for sure.
Start
Yeah.
examining the fun in your life, and that can be at work. I have a lot of fun at work. So those are some of the things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you have to you have to love it. You have to find what you love in it.
Yep.
And take enough breaks, take enough, vacation time. I had this wonderful client, this real genius. He was one of the biggest self-made businesses I'd ever gotten to work with. Just humongous, from zero to money, many, 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 many millions. And he said, at a certain point, if you get paid for the quality of your thoughts, then the more vacations you take, the more money you'll make. Because you need time to think. You need time to think. And if you're a human doing and not a human being, you stop being somebody anybody wants to hang out with too.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the great Wayne Dyer used to say. Yeah, interesting. Really interesting. I like that point a lot. Yeah. So if you had advice for an up and coming business owner, what would your best advice for them be?
Get a coach.
Okay. Aside from get a coach, would you have anything else that you would share? Any other wisdom that you've been doing this forever? Any other wisdom?
I have, and
though that is our favorite point in your way. Yeah,
it totally is, because we know many startups don't last a year, let alone 5. That's just fact. That's fact.
It's true.
So
90% of them, almost 90% of them fail.
To get technical, what I say to my startups is know your numbers. Know your numbers.
That's a great point. Yeah. Well, tell me what you mean by that. Yeah.
Well, many women who come to me who want to turn their hobby into a business, and they act like a hobby owner. And I'll say, and many will also say, well, I only want to make enough to survive. And I'm going, all right, you're going to shift your mindset on this,
That's
because
so weird. Yeah.
that's not how business works. So getting into business, know your numbers. And they'll say, well, I'm not a number person. Well, you need to be a number person.
Well, you can learn these numbers. Yeah.
Numbers tell the story. So I harped on
super
that
important.
every month. Know your numbers, know your numbers, know your numbers. And then outsource and delegate, even as a startup.
Super important. Super important. Well, that's why we started the division of their company with helping people get overseas talent they can afford when there's a talent war.
Exactly. Even 5 hours a month, right?
Yeah, it can revolutionize your business for $10 or $20 an hour.
Will.
You know,
It will.
wasn't it, who was it, Warren Buffett that said for every dollar you spend on somebody that's working for you, you're going to get three back.
Absolutely.
And usually, absolutely, immediately. Oh, so true,
And
so
it's
true, so
painful
true.
for a lot of startups. It's painful.
It is.
However, with the
You got to
trust
do it.
factor, and again, working with someone over the long haul who will say, I'll hold your
So
hand, I'll
supportive.
support you, we'll
Who
get it
knows how to look,
done.
getting somebody who
You,
knows how to look at all those numbers too, because
yes,
it
yes.
can be overwhelming. I had a company that I worked with, and this guy his business was right around 30 million, and he had no idea what his numbers were.
Mm,
I mean, none. I mean, like a startup not knowing their numbers.
yeah,
And we had to go, okay, we got to get you a CFO. So we brought Kim Adele Randall, one of my favorite fractional CFOs, to come in and, overhauled all of his books, figured everything out. And it was so wonderful because after about a year and a half of this, he said, I absolutely love numbers now. I love the numbers. And
but tell the story.
he's a guy with dyslexia. I have dyslexia, so I can understand that completely. He's a guy who didn't grow up with much education, but now he's a master of those numbers, and he feels like he's in control of his business more because he gets all those things. I think that's super, super important. It took me a long time to
Mm-mm.
figure that out myself. And I think, well, and women also, I noticed they don't always charge as much as men. And again, they may
Know
start
your value.
more as a hobby, whereas a guy will be like, I'm going to turn this into a multi-million
Yeah,
dollar something or other. And I think that's just a confidence thing because most women don't grow up with enough role models. And
that's
that's
right.
why they need you. And
That's
hopefully that's
right.
why they need both of us. Yeah, for
So
sure.
I
And
coach on this a little differently because I
yeah,
will say, yes, you want to outsource and delegate. Yes,
yeah.
you want to have somebody working your numbers. But here's what I tell them because they'll say, would you think you're saying I need a bookkeeper? I said, no,
Yeah, you
you
still have to look
need
at your numbers. Yeah,
you
yeah.
need an
Mm,
entrepreneur who does bookkeeping. You see the difference?
true. Yeah,
You
they
want an
need to really be.
entrepreneur who does bookkeeping. You want an entrepreneur who does
Mhm.
accounting because they have the entrepreneurial spirit versus your typical who
Right.
play it safe.
Yeah, all
And
they
so
do,
that's
yes.
part of
All
the
they do is
difference.
ask you for more and more. The ones I've had that have not worked out, that's good. That's a really good point. The ones I've had that have not worked out for us have always been the ones where it was just give me more and more information and I would
Yep.
just spit out a
Yeah.
report. And there's nothing future forecasted about it. There's nothing proactive. There's nothing, hey, I see you've got opportunity here. You're making more profit over here than
Exactly.
over
There's
there.
no
Yeah.
story.
You need a mini CFO because as you grow at a certain point, you need an actual CFO. And they can
Exactly.
grow with you to be your CFO if they start
Yeah.
off with that entrepreneurial mindset. Ooh, aren't you smart? Yeah, I intuitively got that, but I never put a label on it. Ooh,
Yeah.
so smart. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, I know that you, Pat, have graciously offered that if somebody if the first five people who
Hmm.
are watching, if you're watching Inspiring Victory Show and you think Pat's amazing like the rest of us, she's going to give the first five people 30 minutes of her time, which is especially for our show, which I really appreciate. Thank you, Pat. She'll give you 30 minutes and you can tell her what's keeping up at night, or you can
Hmm.
tell her how you're trying to grow, or how you're looking at their numbers, or how you're trying to get your team to be massively productive and effective, or how you're trying to put the fun back into your business. Any of those kinds of
Hmm.
things, Pat will spend half an hour with you. All that we ask for on your behalf, Pat, is when she is unbelievably helpful in that 30 minutes, spread good rumors about Pat. Tell her about this podcast. Tell everybody about how great she is, about how wonderful she is on the show, and spread those good rumors. That's the only catch is you have to give that back and pay that forward. Well, how do people get a hold of you so that the first five can jump on the opportunity?
Best and easiest way is email. My personal email is my first name,
Mhm,
Pat,
mhm.
at Pat Michaud, which shows on the screen right there. So pat@patmichaud.com.
It should be right there on the screen, and also it'll be in all the show notes, and you ought to be able to find it that way.
Easy
Well,
peasy.
thank you for offering for that. I think there's a lot of people who get a lot of value from that. And again, yeah, get a coach. It doesn't have to be either of our consulting, coaching, another. Just get somebody that you feel
Yeah,
comfortable with.
that's
Yeah, we
right.
can't take everybody, so find somebody that you
I
love.
don't take
Uh,
just everybody. Yeah.
you don't, yeah. Neither of
No.
us take just everybody. Yeah, it's got to be a good fit. And sometimes people are, when people are best with somebody else, and we'll
Yeah.
send them where they
Yep.
belong. And Pat, yeah, if Pat doesn't have the answer, she will know somebody that does.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for watching. We love the Inspiring Victory Show. We love the Inspiring Victory Tribe. Cannot tell you how much it means that you are liking and sharing and becoming a part of the YouTube family and being a part of the podcast, the different podcast family. So grateful to have you. Again, we want you to be able to do something brave every single day, and to be able to double your business and double your impact and change the world as only you can do. Thank you for being with us here today on the Inspiring Victory Show. And thank you, Pat. You've been incredible and so helpful and so interesting. And it's always just a joy to see you. Thanks, Pat.
My pleasure. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you to all the listeners.
Thanks so much.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Meritess Bott of Bott & Associates.
I'm so honored to get to be with our wonderful sponsor for the Inspiring Victory Show. And I want to make sure you know a little bit more about her and about what they do, because I think it'd be really helpful for all of us as business people and just in our personal lives. Meritess does a lot of speaking, as many of you probably know, but I love one of the speeches that she's famous for, which is A Generous Legacy, the power of future-proofing your business and your personal life. And that's really what you are all about. So I want to talk a little bit about that with you. And can you give us an example of somebody who's come to you and how you were able to help them that might be able to help all of us as we navigate our financial planning as well as our estate planning for business and for personal?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, thank you for having me, Sarah. I appreciate it. We do a lot of estate planning, obviously, as well as the financial planning for our clients. And a story that I think is a great way to showcase what we do is this wonderful couple that we met back in, I want to say 2015. They came in for a consultation. So they are certainly a wonderful couple, blended family. So second marriage for both of them. He has children and she does not. Basically, they were saying to me, Meritess, I really want my estate plan to be secure. I want it to be ironclad so it goes to the right people. Particularly the wife was concerned that this money goes to her charities, which she was very, very active in and volunteers quite a bit. She puts her hard-earned money with them. And she also wants to make sure her husband is taken care of as well. So she wanted to do both objectives at the same time. We were like, of course we can help you with that. We want to make sure that we write everything down and just like you said, make it ironclad so that there's no contest. There's nobody trying to get to the money inappropriately. Right. So we created a wonderful estate plan for them. So that was 2015. Now, sadly, she unexpectedly passed a few years later. And her surviving spouse came to us and he really needed help. He was so, of course, distraught and super, super sad. But he was also very concerned about the financial pieces. He wasn't that familiar with financial instruments. There was 13, 14, 15 accounts that she had. And of course, he was like, I'm confused. What do I do with all of this? So we said, okay, we're going to take care of you. We got this. And we were able to really take a hold of all those instruments and all those accounts. And on our financial side of our business, we were able to consolidate them, invest it in very prudent investments and make sure it's easy for him to manage. So we were able to do that within 3 to 6 months. His late wife's wishes of him being able to live on that money and then eventually at his death, give it to her charities is exactly what's going to happen. So wonderful to be able to plan it properly, give her peace of mind. A few years later, we're honoring 100% of her wishes. This money is not going to go to anybody inappropriately. And her beneficiaries, her charities, are going to be so happy to be able to get this money upon his death because he is still able to live on that income. So I love those stories because to me, we work so hard. We sacrifice daily, right? We work so hard and we want to be able to take our money and be able to give it to people that we love and charities that we believe in.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. I always enjoy spending time with you. And yeah, you're one of the people I always find so much value in talking to. You're just walking integrity and you're a good soul. And you help people. You help people. So thank you
I
for
appreciate
being on the show again and for sharing with us and for always doing such a great job for everybody. And now that you're able to do even more and be more of a one-stop shop to help people with all these different issues, I think your company and you are even more valuable. Thank you so much. Always
Thank
lovely to see you.
you.
Marites Bott and
Appreciate it.
Associates. If it's something that you need, be sure and contact Marites right away.